Hi, everyone. So I'll be delivering a session on academic and non-academic supports at LUMS. I see that attention spans are dwindling, and just generally there's a lot of end of the day fatigue. So I'll try to be as quick as possible, and then after I've concluded my presentation, we'll have a short Q&A. My name is Saad Khalid. I'm part of the academic affairs team in the Dean's office at SSC. And I'll be talking about academic and non-academic supports at LUMS. At the outset, I'd just like to say that I don't want this session to be an information dump. It's not going to be loaded with information, so I want to make it more meaningful, more absorbable for you guys. It's not going to be a laundry list of all supports that are available to you at LUMS. This session is meant to give you just a quick flavor, a taste of the kinds of supports that are available to you at LUMS, and generally just sort of orient you to an ecosystem of supports that you can access to make the most of your undergraduate experience. Don't expect to walk away from this session with a complete list of supports and all. You can always find that online. It's going to be a bit more conceptual. I'm also going to talk about support-seeking behavior and how to navigate these resources and make the most of your campus experience. Contents. So it's fairly intuitive. I'll start off with an overview of academics. That's just going to be a big picture, bird's eye view of what academics look like at SSC. And then I'll follow it up with potential issues and struggles, particularly in the first year. And I'll pivot towards a role of key advisors and how you can get in touch with those advisors. I'll also briefly talk about other supports that are available across campus and how to best use these support services. And then I'll cap it off with quick information about support services that are available to you. That's just going to be a recap, a substantive refresher of information that's present in earlier slides. All right, so we'll take it from the top. Overview of academics at school. So here we have an illustration of SSC and a pixel map of the entire LUMS campus. You're here at LUMS to learn, but that is an ongoing process. But during your 4 years at LUMS, you are working towards a tangible outcome. And that tangible outcome is your degree, which takes me to degree requirements. Degree requirements are primarily split into university requirements and school and major requirements. University requirements are, you can think of these as requirements that you must fulfill because you are at LUMS, right? So these are also known as university cores or the LUMS core. These include courses such as Writing and Communication, Islamic Studies, Pakistan Studies, and the newly introduced LUMS 100 course. In fact, you guys are going to be the first batch that takes the LUMS 100 course. So it's going to be a bit experimental, but hopefully a fruitful one. I'm sure a lot of thought and planning went into it. And if we look at school-based requirements, that's where things get a bit more specific, a bit more narrow. School requirements for you would be the SBASSE core. So depending on which school you're in at LUMS, you'll have to fulfill a certain set of requirements. For students in the humanities school, they would have to take the MGS HSS core. And if you're brave enough for SSC, then you take the SSC core. Major requirements are where things get even more specific. So school requirements, so they're as a static entity that you have to take because you're at SSC, regardless of what major you would opt for towards the end of your academic year. Major requirements are as the name suggests, they are major specific. So depending upon which major you choose to take at SSC, whether it's CS or Bio or EE or any other major, you'd have to fulfill a certain set of requirements within that major. Please do not confuse major requirements with major allocation requirements. That's something different. So during your first year, if you've come with a blank slate, you don't know what you want to major in, that's fine. Use the first year to take different courses, explore, and then towards the end of the first year, when you have to declare your major, then you can decide. But if you already have a good sense of your intended major, of your major preferences, then work towards achieving the major allocation requirements for the major that you're interested in, right? So that you can be allocated that major towards the end of the first year. So those are major allocation requirements. So you'll have to take courses from all majors at SSC during your first year. That's the SBASSE core. So if you want to major in bio, you need to have, like, there will be cutoffs or thresholds. You'll need to have a certain grade in the introductory bio course. If you want to go to CS, then you'll need to have a certain grade in the introductory CS course. So those are major allocation requirements. And then major requirements kick in once you're in that major. And then in order to successfully graduate, in order to successfully sail through that major, you'll have to fulfill those requirements. Let's take a deeper look. So these are the types of courses that exist at LUMS and SSC in particular. So you have the school core. For you guys, it's the SBASSE core. And then you have major cores, major electives, free electives, university cores, outgroups, and directed coursework, which is, it's kind of like an outlier, but it's still coursework. So cores are very static. They're sort of very fixed entities. You have to take a certain set of predefined courses. Electives is where you have room to explore and choose. So you'll have a pool of courses that you can then choose from. Outgroups, again, you'll have to take a certain number of courses from other schools, and directed coursework. So there are different types of directed courseworks. SPROG is just one of them, but I've underscored it over here because it's for all majors at SSC, if I'm not mistaken, Ramesa, it's mandatory, right? There are other types of directed courseworks as well, such as an independent study, but focus primarily on SPROG because it's a mandatory requirement for graduation. Again, free electives and major electives, these kick in later. For the first year, you'll just be taking the school core along with perhaps some or all university cores. And then once you've declared your major and you become an in-major student, you're no longer an undeclared student. That's when you start taking major cores. And then junior year and onwards is where you have more room to take major electives and free electives. So these are the types of works that are required within these course categories. So these are course categories. And these are the types of works that you are expected to do within these courses. Some courses are writing intensive, like writing and communication. SSC courses usually aren't that writing intensive, but in some courses, you might need to do a bit of writing, particularly in labs. So you'll have to take these lab courses. They have long grueling hours, so the lab sessions themselves will be pretty taxing, but then you'll also have to write regular lab reports. So that's where writing kicks in. Presentations and group work. School cores are very rudimentary, bare bones courses. So you won't have to do presentations and group work in most core courses. In some core courses, you might have to. But major electives then are higher level courses where you're expected to do more advanced work. And that's where presentations and group work will sort of really shift gears. This is the overall landscape for the 4 years that you'll have at SSC. So you'll start off in the first year with a collection of school cores and university cores, right? And then sophomore year is where you'll have some course categories where you can explore and choose. Please do take a look at the undergraduate student handbook and the sample 4-year course plans for the major that you're interested in. That will give you a good overview of what the landscape will look like in the next 4 years. Major electives and outgroups are there in sophomore year, and junior year is where cores take a back seat, and electives and outgroups end up taking a front seat. And then senior year is just mostly course categories where you have to choose from a certain set of courses. There's nothing predefined per se. And what this coloring is really signifying is that as you go from first year to sophomore year and then junior and senior years, slowly and slowly your course palette or your course selection becomes saturated with choice, right? Aside from signifying a progression from easier rudimentary sort of basic introductory courses to more high level and complex courses. Let's talk about potential issues and struggles in the first year. Again, I'll be talking about common first year issues and then signs that you may not be doing well academically and non-academically, and then what should be the appropriate response. So there are a lot of first year issues that students face normally. Transitioning to university is it's a fairly big chunk. It's a tough wave to surf, and if you compare it to the school system that you're previously used to, it's an entirely different ballgame. Again, there are a number of factors that go into it. Generally, academics are a bit more rigorous. There was an earlier session today on academic journey, which showed that in the school system, it's more of an annual thing, the way that you're evaluated. But in university, evaluation is an ongoing process. You have to work hard consistently. There's an onslaught of exams and quizzes and presentations and class participation and whatnot. So there's a lot to deal with in the academic front, but there are some other things as well that you have to navigate. Sambil hai, that is going to be the bane of your existence, more or less. And then there are a couple of things in the non-academic domain as well, just generally acclimatizing to a different environment. There's the whole social milieu of university life. Hostelites have to deal with the new reality of living on campus. Not to say that things aren't any easier for day scholars. It's just, the whole social milieu of university life, it ropes everyone in. So there's a lot going on, and, it brings its own host of academic, mental, and physical struggles. Signs that you may not be doing well. Again, some signs are a bit more obvious, like low scores and grades. That's a very obvious front-facing sign. It's very easy to pinpoint and identify. But some signs might be a bit more cloaked, a bit more masked, and you really have to work hard to identify those. Being overwhelmed is one of those. When you reach your tipping point, that's where it usually becomes evident. But it's good to take precautionary measures and work preemptively to stop burnout. Don't let yourselves reach that tipping point. Don't let the School of Science and Engineering become the School of Stress and Exhaustion, as faculty call it. That's what SSE really means. But yeah, just work against the burnout/crying culture. Don't overwhelm yourselves. Again, being confused and unsure about what you want to do might be a potential sign. In extreme cases where you're completely confused, you're disoriented, you're rudderless, you feel directionless, that's where you'll need to take things a bit slow, maybe take a breather, consult your advisors, and look at different support services that are available to you. And what should be the appropriate response if you face these issues? You should learn to reach out to the Academic Affairs Office. So there are a number of supports that are available to you at LUMS, but being SSC students, the Academic Affairs Office should be your go-to. So they should be your first point of contact, and you can reach out to them at undergradadvising.spssc@LUMS, or you can pop by during office hours. So I'll share details in a forthcoming slide. Just stay tuned. I'll talk briefly about role of key advisors and how you can get in touch with those advisors. So we have the advising unit, that's the Academic Affairs Office in SSE. So each school at LUMS has its own advising unit. At SSE, it's the Academic Affairs Office. You have PALs, faculty advisors, and then, of course, course instructors and TAs are there to support you. So the advising unit caters to a range of topics: handbook policies and procedures, enrollment queries, tracking your degree process if you're on probation or warning, then managing those students, and also looking at other student vulnerabilities, whether that's mental health concerns or financial struggles. But if I were to paint, if I were to give you a big picture version, advising units and advising support staff, they usually deal with administrative matters. So if there's anything that's procedural or policy-based in nature, then you're supposed to take those to the advising unit staff. We have staff members in the Academic Affairs Office. It is led by Numan Beg. You can write to him at numan.beg@LUMS. He's super approachable and very resourceful, and he's an optimist at heart, and I'm sure he'll help you soldier through. And then we also have Alina Khan and Romesa Sana. You'll find that more often than not, academic support, particularly in the advising domain, not only requires very specialized support, but also needs very customized and individualized attention. And you'll find that Alina and Romesa are more than capable at tailoring support to meet your advising needs. So please do reach out to them if you have any questions, anything that's administrative or procedural or policy related. You can also reach out to the advising staff collectively at undergradadvising.sbssc. That's their alias. The office is located in the dean's office. It's the left wing on the 4th floor. That's the top floor of this building. Timings are pretty standard, very boilerplate, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., with the exception of a midday break. That midday break is a bit longer on Fridays because of Plymouth Fair. Peer ambassadors at LUMS for social support, PALs. So PALs are only assigned to first-year students. When you transition to your majors, you'll no longer have PALs. So make the most of this support that is available to you during your first year. After orientation, coaches are gonna take a back seat, and then you have PALs for the remainder of the year. So they have a social support role, as their name indicates. They help you transition to university and higher education with a focus on social integration. So if there is anything related to, so LUMS, when you come to LUMS, it's not just an academic transition, you're also socializing yourself to become a member of a different community, right? It's a different setting altogether. So PALs are going to help you with that. And they're there for pastoral care and, all of those things, but it's not academic in nature. So you don't think of them as advisors. Strictly speaking, staff advisors and faculty advisors is like, sort of one pool. And then PALs are there in a social support capacity. You can get in touch with them through email. You must have already received emails from your PALs. You must have actually had online sessions with them also. If you did not receive an email from your PAL, if your PAL remains non-responsive, then you can drop an email to the Academic Affairs Office. And again, PALs will hold their office hours once the semester commences, and they'll communicate it through email or through the WhatsApp groups. Faculty advisors, great. So just focus on first year for now, because that's where you are at right now. But feel free to look at support offered by faculty advisors to in-major students. So for first year, broadly speaking, it's major exploration approach to higher education and just relationship building with faculty. Faculty are supposed to anchor you into a system that's radically it's radically new for you, right? So do attend the mandatory faculty advising meetings that are scheduled for you. You'll receive an email from the Academic Affairs Office when the meeting is scheduled with scheduling and time slots and all the details within that email. But just make sure that it's on your radar. In-major students can talk to their faculty advisors about course selection, summer planning, their research projects, and post-LUMS planning. with a focus on grad school, of course, but careers as well. Some faculty have expertise in industry, so you can talk to them about that. But generally, I wanted to, like the takeaway from this is for you to get a sense of role clarity that exists between different advisors. So it would be inappropriate or somewhat beyond the pale for you to take administrative matters to faculty advisors, right? I mean, they don't know about policies and procedures. They're just going to refer you to the undergraduate student handbook, or they're going to refer you to the advising staff. Okay, hame nahi pata, we don't know like the nitty-gritties of it. So you can go talk to the advising staff. So don't bother them with administrative matters and with things that are sort of nested in procedural and policy-based matters. You have the advising staff for that. Faculty draw on their own expertise, curricular, research-oriented. They offer conceptual support for major exploration. So all of those things are sort of relevant to faculty, and that's where you're supposed to have those conversations. Again, you can reach out to your faculty via email, or you can go visit their office during office hours. Office hours are usually pasted outside the faculty's office door, but if you don't know where your faculty advisor sits, you can drop an email to the academic affairs office with your faculty advisor's name, and they'll let you know which department your faculty advisor is from and where their office is located. And you can check the Zambil Student Center to find out who your faculty advisor is if you don't know. Again, if your faculty advisor is being non-responsive over email, or if they're not available in their office during office hours, reach out to the academic affairs office and they'll help you connect. Course instructors and teaching assistants are again a very integral component of support systems that are available to you. So there are different domains, right? I mean, there's advising, there's tutoring, there's course-related support. These are by and large academic in nature, but then we also have a couple of other supports like medical care, student wellness, accessibility and safety, careers. So course instructors and teaching assistants are there for course-related support. For all years, if there's anything that's course-related, when you're planning for the next semester and you're looking at course outlines and, particularly with optional courses, major electives and free electives where you have the room to explore and you're looking at different courses and you want to diversify your course portfolio, just go talk to the course instructors and the TAs before you take that course if you're unsure about course components and other course attributes. And once you have taken that course, during that course, of course, if you face any issue academically or just generally you're struggling with course content, then reach out to your course instructors, reach out to your TAs. TAs are usually more approachable and more accessible than course instructors, particularly for first-year courses, because it's a very large class, it's usually a single section or a few sections with hundreds of students. So your relationship with faculty might be a little distant, but TAs are always there to help you out. So, make the most of their office hours and their availability in general. You can reach out to them through email and through their office hours. Again, if you have issues in connecting with them, please reach out to us and we'll put you in touch. Let's talk about some other supports that are available across campus. Great. So sort of previously touched upon advising, but advising alone cannot close tutoring gaps. That's why we have a few skill building tutoring centers at LUMS. We have the Academic Writing Lab. That's the oldest skill building tutoring center at LUMS. You want someone to go over your essay, or if you want to check your citations, if you want to make sure that everything's in order, then you can go to the Academic Writing Lab. They're situated in the academic block in DR3 and DR4. DRs are discussion rooms. So ground floor ke upar ye do DRs hain. That's where they're located. Ye inke timings hain. You can always drop them an email at writinglab@lums, or you can just visit them during their office hours. So how is this important in the SSC context? Again, you might need some support for courses like writing and communication. And if you take other courses from Gurmani that are a bit more writing intensive, where you'll have to do essays, For SSC, first year courses, you don't have anything that's writing intensive. Lab reports are a different ballgame altogether. But generally, I think you should orient yourselves towards scientific writing because, like I mentioned previously, in your senior year, you're expected to do a capstone project. That's your senior year project. And it's not just about conducting research in a lab setting. You'll have to sort of assimilate that research. You'll have to present it to faculty. You'll have to write a report on it, or perhaps even a full-fledged thesis. And if things are going really well, you might even make a research article or a paper out of it. So you'll need to develop the skill of scientific writing. Scientific writing, again, is a subset of academic writing. So AWL doesn't specifically cater to scientific writing, but they're just generally there to help you out with your writing skills. So don't expect to go in there, they won't redo your essays for you, right? So they're just going to offer sort of auxiliary support. They're going to look at your writing style. They're going to try to amp it up and sort of take it up a few notches, but they won't redo your essay. If you're struggling with English or you want to work on your quant skills, you can reach out to Learning and Mentoring Center, that's LMC. You can email them at mgshss.lmc@LUMS. There's another tutoring center called Communication and Presentation Tutoring Program. They're known as Com Tutors. You can drop them an email at this address, and you can also attend their group sessions. The AWL is housed in Burmani. Com Tutors are housed in STSP. There's a PhD room 106, but they also, they're following a hybrid model apparently, so you can also do it through Zoom. AWL, I believe, they also have a social media presence, so you can follow them on Insta. I believe their handle is AWL_LUMS. So give them a follow and just stay tuned for regular updates. All right, so we have a number of support services at LUMS when it comes to student wellness. Counseling and psychological services is one of them. So if you are concerned about your mental health, then you can reach out to CAPS. You can book an appointment by writing to this email. These are their timings. You can also directly talk to a counselor by emailing Ask CAPS. There's a closed Facebook group available to you, and there's also an emergency number. So CAPS is like it's a fairly comprehensive resource. And if you're having mental health issues, then you can reach out to them. There's a medical center that Sam also talked about in his presentation. If you want on-campus medical care, you need transportation to a nearby hospital, or you require over-the-counter prescription medicines, we have a pharmacy for that. That's located in the Superstore building. For the medical center, you can call these numbers. It's situated behind COCA on the SBASSE site. EMS, again, is there. So at LUMS, historically, before, we didn't have a medical center. So EMS was the main body. But now that we do have a medical center, they have taken center stage. And then EMS is there, as a student-run body, as a student-run organization that caters to on-campus medical emergencies. With the medical center, of course, you'll have to go there. But EMS, because it's a student-run body, it's a bit more dynamic in nature. So if you have a sprained ankle or anything else that renders you immobile, get in touch with EMS, and they're going to offer on-site support. Office of Accessibility and Inclusion, that's the OAI, and Office of Student Affairs, OSA. Dr. Mariam Mustafa talked about OAI great length during her session yesterday, so I'm just going to briefly touch upon it. If you experience any kind of harassment, you want to lodge a formal complaint or an informal complaint, then you can email at harassment@LUMS. The Office of Accessibility and Inclusion looks after this alias. But if you need extra assistance in classes due to an impairment or a disability, it can be a visible disability, it can be an invisible disability as well, but anything that is long-term in terms of impairment, you can get in touch with the Office of Accessibility and Inclusion at OAI@LUMS. You don't need a recurring petition through OSA. if you have a long-term impairment, you can just reach out to OII and they will accommodate you. But for anything that's short-term, if you are unwell and you have an exam or you have a quiz or any other course component, just go through the makeup policy for graded instruments in the undergraduate student handbook and check whether you are eligible for filing a petition or not. So do your due diligence and then reach out to the Office of Student Affairs. You can file a petition by emailing them at osa@LUMS. Career Services Office, it's an excellent resource that is available on campus. If you want a job or an internship, if you want assistance with your application, you can write to them at cso@lums.edu.pk. Library, maybe you have like a couple of services that are available to you. You want to run your essay through a plagiarism detector before submitting it. You can send your essays at similarity@lums.edu.pk. Technically, it's a similarity index report, but your instructors use it to see if plagiarism has happened or not. So it's essentially working as a plagiarism detector. If you need to access e-databases or e-journals for academic research, that's going to kick in later on when you take higher level courses and you need, papers from different journals like Nature and Science or whatever. Then you'll need to send your links to this address. And if you require library services at home, or if you have anything that's related to, sort of issuing books and all, so you can email library staff at LUMS. How to best use support services. So we have talked at length about different support services, different online. So we're going to talk about online resources as well, but for now we have talked mostly about on-campus support units that are available to you. But let's also touch upon how to best use these support services, how to make the most out of these resources. So making the most of supports that are available to you, the different facets to it, you should start using campus resources preemptively. So, use resources even if you aren't struggling. I know in Pakistan, we generally have this mentality that, if things are going sideways, if things are going south, that's the only time when we go out and seek support. But over here, you're transitioning to university. It's a more adult place, and a more adult place requires a more adult attitude. And one of the ways that you can sort of cultivate a more adult attitude is reaching out even if you aren't struggling. Just get the habit of using resources, particularly advising. Even if you don't have a mandatory meeting scheduled with your faculty advisors, with the advising staff, reach out to them, connect with them. If you want to plan for the next semester, if there's anything that's bugging you about courses, about summer planning, or if there's anything else, just go talk to them, make the most out of the resources that are available to you. They might flag something for you that, slipped through your radar, right? If you're struggling, then things are a bit more concrete, but generally, that's why we do regular medical checkups, because, we have to sort of monitor things on a consistent basis. And you should do the same for your academics. Just go in for regular check-ins, for regular checkups. They're gonna, run a diagnostic, and they're gonna prescribe appropriate support. Developing support-seeking behavior, again, is a part and parcel of cultivating a more adult attitude. You need to be proactive in support seeking. There are a lot of resources that are available to you. There's a whole ecosystem of supports at LUMS, but those resources won't come crawling to you. You will have to reach out, right? So that's an expectation from you that, we have set up these facilities for you, and you can reach out for improved outcomes. Being prepared, again, it's a fairly important component of making the most of these supports and resources that are available to you. You get what you put in, and that's a fact. If you schedule an appointment with one of your advisors, and if they ask you to bring any support material, then make sure that it stays on your radar. Make sure that you do bring it to the meeting. And just generally, even if it's not a scheduled appointment, even if it's just a quick question, even if it's just a walk-in, just make sure that you've done your homework, that you've done your due diligence. just review relevant sections of the handbook before you go. If you're coming to the advising staff, don't go in there as a clean slate, right? I mean, if you're going to talk about a particular policy or a particular administrative matter, just make sure that you've consulted the handbook first. And then if you're unsure, if there are ambiguities, if the statements sound vague to you, then you can always connect with advising staff. Where to find information about supports that are available to you. This is just going to be a quick recap, and I'm also going to touch briefly upon online resources that are available in the advising resource repository. It's also known as the advising portal. Yeah, so the advising portal, you can think of it as a one-stop digital repository of resources. Within the ecosystem of supports at LUMS, you have online resources and you have on-campus support minutes. So make the most out of these online resources. There's a university-wide calendar that outlines different events. You have a support services directory, and you have a couple of excellent handouts on major exploration and career preparedness, graduate study planning, study tips, personal effectiveness, and so on. So this is a LUMS-wide thing. I'm also working on a couple of resources, particularly for SSC students. I am right now working on a course selection guide. So that's school-specific. It's just for SSC students. And I'm going to share that with you once I'm done. But this is a university-wide thing. I mean, even like, let's say you're an SSC, but you are contemplating a school transfer. So you can look at the major exploration documents of majors from other schools as well, like the majors that are offered at HSS or at other schools. You can look at those documents. This is available to the entire LUMS community, and it's available, like it's there to sort of support you and try to make the most of it during your first year. And over here, I'd just like to underscore that a lot of these resources are also present on the official orientation website. I know the advising portal is there for you. And OSA, so you're going to get weekly emails from OSA announcements, and advising portal is also linked within those emails. So it's going to be on your radar regardless. But for first year in particular, I'd recommend that you keep checking the official orientation website. So under the resource library tab, there are a couple of excellent resources. Some resources are under development. They'll be uploaded there soon. But just keep checking back, just bookmark that link. And most of those resources, again, are more relevant for first years. Advising portal में resources हैं, but those resources are for all years. In the orientation link, under the resource library tab, you have resources that are sort of more specialized, more relevant for first years. So this is the academic affairs team. Like I said, it's led by Noman Beg. Alina Khan and Ramesa Sana also have a very robust student-facing role. So you can reach out to them. You can reach out to advising staff collectively at undergradadvising.sbssc. Again, to recap, they're located in the dean's office. It's the left wing on the top floor of this building, and their timings are pretty standard. So yeah, that's all. I am now opening the floor to questions and comments. I'm happy to address those. Yeah.
So we put our cards on Monday.
Okay. So I think they will be self-activated. I don't think you have to reach out to a particular resource. They'll be self-activated once the semester commences. Any other questions, comments? The advising team is also here to answer your queries. Anything at all? All right, then that's it. Thank you. Thank you for listening.